Alright, what's up, y'all? We're back. I know I'm not sticking with the day-to-day thing very well, but we're working on it. I promise we're working on it. We'll talk more about it. Things have been real interesting, and yeah, especially since the last week. I probably haven't been as active, particularly since last week with the election and everything. We'll just leave it at that. But anyway, we're just going to jump right into things, and we're going to talk a little bit about Monday Night Raw for a couple of different reasons. One, the change from 3 hours to 2 hours has actually been pretty cool, but, there are pros and cons to everything. But I gotta say, it's really been refreshing being able to focus on other things after Monday Night Raw is over, particularly the remainder of whatever is left of the Monday Night Football game that's going on as that's happening. But for me, it's just been really, really interesting because I forgot what it was like having Raw being only 2 hours. Now, the only thing to this is that, of course, come January, when Raw moves to Netflix, there's some expectation that it could be moving back to 3 hours. Same could be said for SmackDown on USA. Now, whether or not this is going to be the case, we'll see. Another thing I wanted to talk about is that it turns out that we're getting pre-taped episodes because there have been spoilers, and of course I'll be getting into one here in a little bit. But really and truly, I gotta say, it's definitely something of a welcome change. Again, I want to be able to get used to it, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to, sadly, and that's just kind of where I have said before what was the point initially, but at the same time, it's good to enjoy it while you got it. That's pretty much all that can be said about it, and we'll see where it goes from there. And of course, like I said, we've got a lot of pre-tape things going on, and a lot of that's been specifically to give talent a little more time at home, just a break from being off the road, which I can't be mad at that. At the same time, there's some downsides, but it is what it is. I mean, that's really all I know to say to that. But one thing about that, with the pre-taped aspect of it, and this is where the spoilers come in, it seems we have an imminent Rhea Ripley return. Of course, last time we saw her, she was seen attempting to leave the NXT parking lot, but wasn't very successful, as you saw Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez fleeing from the scene as they had jumped Rhea Ripley and left her bloodied. Bloody Rhea Ripley. Anyway, or Rhea Bloody. Anyway, point I'm trying to make here is that this is really, really interesting because the injury that was initially reported isn't as bad as anticipated, and this is one really good sign of that. But what's really interesting to me is that a lot of the speculation had her coming back around WrestleMania time, which would have made sense because ideally you want to see her win the title back at a WrestleMania, so why not do that then? It just seems now, with the way things are going, that still could be the case. Just may not be so likely that it's Liv Morgan she takes the title off of. I don't know. All I can say at this point is that, in all honesty, I like that she is able to get back quickly, or as quickly as she has, because, time away for any performer just absolutely has to suck. I actually just got off the phone with a relative that had to deal with that and was very happy that she's back at work. So I gotta imagine at least that's one thing that Rhea won't have to deal with here, but I gotta say, it's going to be really interesting to see where things go, and more specifically with the announcement of the new Women's United States Championship. Not that she'd be involved with that because she's on Raw, that's on SmackDown, but you gotta imagine at some point we're gonna hear about the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Does Rhea somehow fit into those plans somehow? I don't know. We'll find out at some point, I guess, but in any case, we're gonna move right along to another Monday Night Raw, Women of Raw subject, specifically Dakota Kai, as seen here with Damage Control. Of course, last night was the return of Dakota Kai from injury, and I find this interesting for a variety of reasons. One, you've got Io Sky, who, interestingly enough, is actually set to challenge Liv Morgan for the Women's World title, so again, chances that there could be someone else that Rhea faces at Mania. But either way, it's just really, really interesting for me because back before Dakota's injury, there was a lot of talk because I guess there's a lot of anxiety that was going around for Dakota. I don't know if it was with Dakota herself or anything, but having talked about the Women's World title picture, and this is where, again, the Women's Intercontinental Championship, when introduced, will be really, really interesting. Do you see Dakota Kai in that? At what point do they pull the trigger on Dakota Kai to actually become Women's World or even WWE Women's Champion? I think she's definitely deserving of it. She's stuck around. She's been with the company for a long time. She was stuck with NXT for quite some time, and of course a lot of that, again, had to do with the Vince McMahon regime. This is a completely different thing, but to me, I think sooner or later you got to get to that point because it was similar to what we got with Kofi Kingston, Big E. There's a laundry list of other superstars that I could go on and on about that stuck with the company, showed the loyalty, was a great company guy, and yet still didn't get the nod. I'm wanting to think maybe things are different with the Triple H era, but, as I'll point out in another video here in the next day or two, who knows with that? But at least in her case, you can only hope for the best, and with her being back, the best has got to be yet to come. But with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and close this out talking about WWE AEW, specifically because last Wednesday specifically, you had AEW and NXT going head-to-head due to the election last Tuesday. For me, a lot of people make a big deal about NXT beating Dynamite last week. I really don't look at it that way. I never even looked at it all that time when they were going head-to-head back in the day when AEW was just running them. It was just... AEW was just clearly seemingly the better product at the time, but it seems like that's changed as now you got AEW doing Title Tuesday and not doing it very well, so to speak. And then, of course, you got NXT coming to Wednesday, and they actually beat them again. And, of course, now there's internal belief or a little thing about the internal focus having changed to where they're not going to focus as much about beating WWE or trying to be WWE or whatever. It's just going to be all about AEW for AEW, which is the way that it should be. And I don't know why it couldn't stay that way the whole time. But in that same vein, it is good to see WWE where it is and have that be what you shoot for if you're AEW. Now, I'm not saying that AEW necessarily beats WWE in anything at any point. I don't know that to be the case at all. What I will say, however, is if we can get AEW being more of what AEW was back in 2019-2020, then we're really on to something here. But until we get to that point, none of this really matters. And really for me, I'm grateful that we have both of these companies around, because just having one of them especially for as long as we did, just ain't it. It really ain't it. And I think that just goes to show. I mean, so many things have proven it, but that's just me on that, and I'm going to leave it at that. So y'all let me know what y'all think down below. Of course, y'all know how this works. Like, share, and subscribe. And of course, yeah, that's pretty much all I got on that. I'm A and J, and there will be more. I don't know why I had that pause. Anyway, later, y'all.